Alright, and here we go. So, welcome back to the channel. Oh, this is definitely a little strange. So, I got a new headset ready to go. Um, got it as a gift from my good friend Brian, so shout out to him. Um, Hopefully you guys like the quality of the audio. This is a very nice headset. So, we are 1 week into Overwatch League. Um, I guess the only other thing in Overwatch news is Paris is live. Not in competitive, but the map is live on the current servers. So, if you're curious about that, go try it out. And other than that, yeah, 1 week down, Overwatch League. Um, it was pretty much like I predicted in stage one. Very hard to predict. I went 8-8, completely even. So now that we've seen all of the teams in action at least once, let's see if I can get a little bit of a better um, scope of how the teams are going to play. All right, so we're going to be covering the matches Thursday and Friday. So 8 predictions. Since there are 4 matches a day instead of 3 now, um, I'm going to speed it up a little bit as compared to last year. I don't want the videos to be getting too long. So, without further ado, getting into it, Thursday, first matchup. We got Washington Justice taking on the London Spitfire. So, two of the there are still 7 teams without a win. These are two of them. In week one, Washington faced New York and lost 0-1, and London lost to both Philadelphia and Paris. So, two teams that aren't looking the strongest. The maps are going to be Busan, Numbani, Horizon Lunar Colony, and then Rialto. So, London was not very good at running goats. Their goats looked very disjointed. Isn't good when you're playing goats. You're done. You got no chance. So it was a rough go of it for them. They did manage to take a map off both teams, but I mean, for the reigning champs, an 0-2 start, -4 map differential, they're in pretty bad shape. And the other thing to remember is there's only 28 matches this season, so a really bad first stage is even worse for a team than it was last year because I mean you only have 21 games. If you say you start like 2-5, you only got 21 games to really get back on track. So I think Lennon is in some trouble. I do still like them in this matchup though over Washington. Justice looked decent against New York. They were able to take a map, but did fall 3-1. That was like I said, that was their only matchup. Um, yeah, I think they're probably a little bit better at running goats than Spitfire, honestly. But there are things like we've seen a lot of the Sombra instead of Diva. There are some things that teams have been doing pretty successfully against goats, and just the level of talent from London is a lot higher than Washington. So I think that even though their communication might not be as good and they might not be as comfortable on this comp, I think that they're still going to come away with a win in the series. I think they'll take it 3-1. Washington looked pretty good on Lunar Colony last week, even though New York didn't try their absolute hardest, it seemed, on that map. But still, Washington looked really solid on it. I'm going to say they probably take that one, but London will get the other 3. Next, we got Philly Fusion and Florida Mayhem. So Philly went 2-0. They beat London, like I mentioned before, and then they won a very, very, very close matchup against the Atlanta Reign. So they're 2-0. Florida was crushed by the Atlanta Reign 4-0. They are 0-1 with a -4 map differential already. Um, it's only been a week, so I'm not gonna say like exactly where I think each team is going, but through 1 week, Florida played about as well as I thought they would, which was not well at all. They didn't even have Sia player in there, so yeah, they look disjointed. They don't look like they're super comfortable on goats. They don't look like they're super comfortable as a team, and because I'm not quite as high on Philly as other people, if you tell me if you're one of the people that there's a pretty decent section that's like saying Philly's number one in the league. I think you're sorely mistaken. I think they're very good, but not number one. Monte Cristo made a good point on the show when they were talking about Fusion and their matchup against Atlanta, and he was just like, What is this Philadelphia team without Carpe?" I think more than any other team in the league, now that Fisher's off the Gladiators, I don't think any player on any team has that big of an impact and that much of a carry. Like I said, the only people I can think of last year was Fisher on the Gladiators, Striker on Boston would be the closest things. But of course, neither of them are on those teams anymore. So it's just got to be Carpe. He wins them so many map fives. Um, so I do think Philly will win this relatively easily. They have been known to kind of play down to their competition a little bit. So I think Florida might sneak away a map. So I'll say 3-1. Maybe Florida's look decent on assault maps. So maybe they take Anubis. They look pretty decent on Volskaya. So yeah, Philly will win this though pretty easily. Third, this is a very interesting one. We got the Guangzhou Charge and the Dallas Fuel. So Guangzhou is another one of the teams that only played once. They lost in 5 maps to the Chengdu Hunters. And then the Dallas Fuel continues to be an enigma. They've had the worst loss of this season. They got absolutely shellacked by the Shock in their first matchup. It's 4-0, and none of the maps were even a semblance of close. But then they took on the Seoul Dynasty in their second match, played very, very well, and beat them 3-1. So they're 1-1. They're -2 on the season. Um, we saw the worst of the Fuel, and we saw like the best of the Fuel. Um, like if that doesn't show you the amount of like parity that's happening right now in the Overwatch League, so stick with me for a sec here. Dallas just beat Seoul Dynasty 3-1, right? And Seoul earlier beat the Gladiators 3-1. And San Francisco beat Dallas 4-0. And the Gladiators beat San Francisco in 5. So it's pretty crazy. Um, Not the natural pecking order, like this team beat this team, so then this team should beat them as well. Um, so yeah, I don't really know what to make of the Fuel. I'm pretty high on them. I really like their team. I'm kind of like I guess they're kind of like my surrogate third team. I don't know. Um, I just kind of I kind of like them. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of everything they went through last year. But I do think they're gonna beat Guangzhou. I think they're a bit of a better team. Guangzhou was a little disappointing to me. I felt like they shouldn't have lost to Chengdu. Um, they for the most part they played well, but sometimes it looked like the team coordination just isn't there yet. There were a lot of times I felt like they could have capitalized on an opportunity, and they just straight up didn't. So I think Dallas is going to have a lot of confidence after beating Seoul. I think they're going to come in strong. They're going to take the first couple maps. Guangzhou will probably take map 3 or 4, but I'm going to say Dallas takes it 3-1. And then we got Seoul Dynasty. Like I said, they're 1-1. Looked really good against the Gladiators. Looked okay against the Fuel, but they did lose that matchup. So they're at 1-1. Their map differential is 0. Then you got the Chengdu Hunters. They're 1-0. They won their only match. They're +1. But I think Seoul's going to win this one. I think it'll be relatively easy for them. Um, I think the main thing that Dallas capitalized on, and it's been a reoccurring theme in Week 1, and it's going to continue to be a reoccurring theme as long as Goats is meta. Um, it's really all about isolating one person because of as you guys know, in Goats, essentially the team that gets the first pick wins. It's one of the things that the community doesn't like about Goats, but it is what it is. The 99.9% of the time, the team that gets the pick first wins. There's no mercy for reses, and because Goats play so close together, if you lose one person, you're at a severe disadvantage. Whoever it is, you're at a severe disadvantage against the enemy. And Dallas did a really, really good job of taking Fissure out. Whenever he would get aggressive, they would immediately punish him. Discord orbs, you could tell, were always going for him. At least priority was always Fissure. And that was really what one of the things that gave Dallas their edge. They were just punishing him for being aggressive, and so I think that Seoul's going to look at that. They're going to kind of adjust. Um, they're on Ilios, Hollywood, Horizon Lunar, and then Rialto. Um, I'm going to say this is a 4-0. I think Seoul's going to come out and really have cleaned up a couple of things that plagued them in that Dallas match, and they're just going to kind of take Chengdu to task. Like I said, Chengdu was a little bit of a pleasant surprise for me. They played better and more together than I thought that they would, but in terms of skill level and experience and pretty much everything, I like Seoul here, and they're going to pretty much dominate that matchup. Moving on to Friday. We got Atlanta Reign against Toronto Defiant. So Atlanta's 1-1. They clobbered Florida. They lost to Philly. They're sitting at 1-1 +3 map differential. Toronto Defiant only played once, and they edged the Outlaws in a very good, very competitive 5 map set. Um, I mean, if you look at my power rankings, it's pretty obvious who I'll pick here. I'm going with Atlanta. They've looked very good. I think that well, I'd probably put them like at the number three or number two expansion team right now in terms of play. They looked very good, like I said. Losing to Philly in 5, back and forth match all throughout is really nothing to be ashamed of, especially for a new team that's working together. And Toronto looks pretty solid. They didn't have Neko in, who's supposed to be their starting off support. So I don't know why he didn't play, but they will be a bit better if he plays. I think he's definitely better than Aid. Um, but Aid did a decent job, and I'm gonna take Atlanta in this one. It's gonna be another 3-1. I don't see a ton of these going down to 5 maps, but yeah, even though Toronto's 1-0, I think Atlanta's definitely looked better. I think their potential is higher. I think that they're just better overall, and they're gonna. I'll say, I think Toronto might take Numbani, but otherwise, I think Atlanta will take the other 3 and improve to 2-1. Then we got the New York Excel taking on the Los Angeles Valiant. So New York, they're 2-0. They did enough to win. They're at +3 map differential. They did have some easy matchups though. Definitely easier matchups in Boston, who is again better than we thought, and then Washington. And then you got the Valiant. They're 0-1, -1 map differential. They lost a very, very close matchup against the Hanzhou Spark. It's a very entertaining match. But weird thing, Kuki, who used to be a main tank, is apparently converting to main support. He was on Lucio the whole game. We saw no sign of Custa. Apparently, a report came out from somebody involved in the Overwatch League that said that Valiant, they liked Kuki's ult tracking abilities, and they liked pairing him up with Fate's shot calling, and that's why they've had him practicing for the last like 3 weeks on Lucio. I don't like it. I think Custa is a very good support. I think he's very good for team morale. He's very good for keeping people's heads level. I thought he's also a very good in-game leader, and him and Fate obviously worked well last year. They were second in the regular season, and it took the London Spitfire on an absolute roll to knock them out of the playoffs. So I don't like it. We'll see if they run Custa at all, or if they're going all in on this Cookie thing. But I can't pick the Valiant in confidence with that. Although I do think Valiant is a bit of a better Goats team overall. New York's Goats has not really impressed me, if I'm being honest. I think it's going to be back and forth. These teams know each other. They played against each other a ton of times. I'll say Valiant stretches it to 5 just because Space is a monster eating grabs. Fate is excellent. Um, Kareev, his RA was pretty solid. I would like to see some more improvement from him. But yeah, Valiant is still a very good team, although I think they should return Custa to the lineup. But I got the New York Excel taking a very close 5 mapper. And after that, we got the Shanghai Dragons, Boston Uprising. So Boston, they went 1-1. Shanghai went 0-2. So Uprising, they lost 2-1 to the Excel, and then they beat the Outlaws 3-2. So they're at 0 map differential, sitting at 1-1. Shanghai had a disastrous week 1. They went 0-2. -6 map differential, so they're already digging themselves a hole, last in the league. Once again, maps are Ilios, Kings Row, Horizon Lunar Colony, and then Rialto. So Boston, they shipped out Gamsu, Striker's gone, and they still looked pretty solid. They put up a good fight against New York, then they edged out Houston just barely in 5 maps. So I'm going to take Boston this matchup. Shanghai, of course, acquired Gamsu from the Boston Uprising. He did not play in their first match. He did play in their second match where they got absolutely destroyed by the Vancouver Titans. Destroyed might even be a not may not be in a strong enough word to cover it. Essentially, they got fucked. So I'm not feeling great about Shanghai. I do think they'll still be a good team in the end. Like I said before week 1, they don't have Fearless, and now they have Gamsu as a main tank, but he has not played with these players yet, so he's still got to find that chemistry. This is the second week that he's been there now, so I don't think it'll be there quite yet. Boston's synergy was surprising to me, especially considering that they traded Gamsu last minute and they had just brought Fusions up and got him to LA. It looked like he'd been playing with the team for a long time. He looked good. So I think Boston is solid. They're going to be a middle of the pack team in all likelihood, unless some of the teams towards the back really get on a roll. I still think Boston's ceiling is very low. But when teams have bad days and they're not coordinated, Boston will take advantage of it. I'll say they win this one 3-1. I'm not confident with Shanghai to win a couple maps, but it could go to 5. We could have a tie on Lunar Colony. But yeah, I think Boston has the edge in that one. And then we got Houston Outlaws taking on the Hangzhou Spark. So Spark are 2-0. Looked very good coming out of the gate, especially for an expansion team. And you have Houston, who came out 0-2 with 2 devastating Map 5 losses. Um, I mean, ugh. I think that my. I think that Houston might be at a tipping point where they're going to start freaking out if they lose a couple more matches, and it might spiral. Um, Amuma had like a freaking near breakdown on stream, like freaking out about goats, and he's talking about how he wakes up and he sees goats. He goes to sleep and he sees goats. He plays the game and he sees goats. He comes back to his house and solo queues and he sees goats. So it's clear this team is not really a big fan of the meta, even though I think it's a pretty decent one for them. They just couldn't pull out those map 5s. Raucus is under a lot of fire on Reddit and other places. Apparently, even like their GM came out and was blasting him or something. So I don't love the spot Houston's in. Hangzhou's got to be riding high. They're 2-0, and I can't pick Houston here. I picked them in both of their matchups week 1. They couldn't pull them out, and I think that Hangzhou is better than both of the teams that they've played. Hangzhou looks very solid. Um, I think that my updated power rankings, they're going to be higher than their original number 12. I think they're a top 10, maybe top 8 team for sure. So because of that, I'm going to take them. I think it's going to go to 5 again, though. I like Houston on King's Row a lot, and I feel like they'll probably take one of the other maps, maybe Temple of Anubis. But I think Hangzhou has the advantage on control, and they will win in the end. Little side note on Houston. I mean, yeah, I think Ruckus is a big part of the problem. Like seeing his alt charge, a lot of times he was behind using his alt in weird situations or not using it. I still think Muma's Rhine is hurting them. Um, because otherwise Dante has looked fantastic on Sombra and Zarya. He's been every bit the pickup that they've had hoped for. They just need more from the other guys. I think Boink on Lucio has played very well. Um, and I think that Cool Matt has also been very solid on Diva. But Linkser, Linkser, Muma, and Raucus are the three that I look at. Linkser going down a lot of times early in fights. Muma not blocking shatters and getting his own shatters blocked. Um, I still think this team can turn it around. Like I said, they were right there. They could just as easily be 2-0. So I think that they're still a solid team, but if these losses keep piling up, it could go very far south. And I don't think they'll get a win. I think Hanjo will edge this one out. So, those are the predictions for Thursday and Friday. Hopefully, I didn't go for a lot of super bold picks this week. We'll see. I think that Saturday and Sunday have a couple of have like some really interesting matchups. So I can't wait to get into those. But anyways, thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a great couple days, and I'll see you in the next one.